Imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, Robert Meyer Burnett. I invite you to watch and listen to the Designing Hollywood podcast, brought to you by Martika Ibarra and the great, legendary Hollywood costume designer, Marilyn Vance. I am afforded the wonderful opportunity of co-hosting the show. If you are interested in the magic of Hollywood, the design of Hollywood, the clothes of Hollywood, watch the Designing Hollywood podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts from, or find the video version on YouTube. That's right, the Designing Hollywood podcast. Why would you ever want to miss it? Especially if you love the movies. Greetings.
Robservations with Robert Meyer Burnett.
Well, greetings, Imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, your sommelier of cinema and sci-fi, your archbishop of Banterbury, your evangelist of the imagination, and, of course, the as yet defined, yet to be defined, your existential Mr. Rogers, Robert Meyer Burnett. And you know what I'm doing. I'm robcasting you imagination connoisseurs, you members of this, the Post-Geek Singularity community. This is Robservations, episode number 794. Not only are we closing in on episode 800, but we're also closing in on the end of the Robservatory. There's going to be a new Robservatory, or Robservatory 2.0, but this Robservatory is not long for the world, ladies and gentlemen. Boys and girls, gentle beings, kind souls, however you identify. And, change is good. The sleeper must awaken. Isn't that what Duke Leto Atreides told his son? That's right. New experiences, they stir something deep within us. And there's been a lot of new experiences in the year of 2022 for me. A lot of new ventures, a lot of new branching out, making stuff happen. And you know what else is happening? I'll tell you. So anyone who went and saw Uncharted in the theater, you were treated to the logo for PlayStation Productions. And obviously PlayStation Productions is now the entertainment division. Not that PlayStation isn't already entertaining, so you can't say that. It is, I guess, their film and television unit. They will be making shows and movies based on their IP, Uncharted being the first of those, of the great video game series, which I actually really loved. The first Uncharted game blew me away when I played it. Well, today, it was announced. And what's interesting is, you see, I guess it's Kratos, you see in the opening, with all the different characters they focused on, God of War was one of those IPs that was in PlayStation Productions logo. And why shouldn't it be? I mean, the God of War game series is obviously one of the great game series of all time. I mean, who doesn't love God of War? I don't know who doesn't love God of War. And today, this comes to us. This was in Deadline. Nelly Andreeva posted this almost at 1 o'clock this afternoon. God of War TV series adaptation eyed by Prime Video. This is an exclusive to Deadline today. PlayStation's flagship action-adventure franchise, God of War, is heading to television. Prime Video is in negotiations for a live-action TV series based on the hugely popular ancient mythology-themed game, sources said. And according to Nelly here, I hear the series adaptation comes from The Expanse creators and executive producers Mark Fergus and Hawk Otsby, and the Wheel of Time executive producer showrunner Rafe Judkins, as well as Sony Pictures Television and PlayStation Productions, which collaborate on all TV series based on PlayStation games. Reps for Sony and Amazon Studios, which will likely co-produce, had no comment. This would mark the latest deal for a TV series based on a popular video game title in a red-hot streaming marketplace for gaming IP. Peacock just landed another SPT PlayStation property, Twisted Metal. Man, was Twisted Metal Black for PlayStation 2? I want to say it was. Twisted Metal, I loved Twisted Metal Black. Twisted Metal with a series order and Anthony Mackie starring. HBO has coming up the high-profile PlayStation game-based series The Last of Us, starring Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey. Netflix has a Resident Evil TV series in the works, while Paramount Plus is, of course, to the utmost entertainment and amusement of Ray Ora, Halo. Paramount Plus is about to do their Halo series, of course, based on the Xbox Microsoft franchise. Amazon Studios has been particularly aggressive in the arena. It has Killer Films' upcoming TV series Fallout, starring Walter Goggins. It is developing a Mass Effect series adaptation and just closed a first-look deal with DJ2 Entertainment to develop a TV series based on gaming IP. The God of War franchise from Sony's Santa Monica studio spans a total of 7 games across 4 PlayStation consoles. The action game launched in 2005 on the PlayStation 2 with the first God of War. At the center is ex-Spartan warrior Kratos and his perilous journey to exact revenge on the Ares, the Greek god of war, after killing his loved ones under the deity's influence. After becoming the ruthless god of war himself, Kratos finds himself constantly looking for a chance to change his fate. Following several titles on various PlayStation consoles, including the PS3 and the handheld PSP, Santa Monica Studios brought new life to the franchise with the 2018 game on PlayStation 4. In it, Kratos comes to the Norse wilds where he gets a second chance at fatherhood with his son Atreus. The installment earned a slew of honors at the 2018 Game Awards, including Game of the Year. An 8th God of War installment, God of War Ragnarok, is in the works for PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 and is set to drop this year. Fergus and Otsby shared an Oscar nomination for co-writing Children of Men and also co-wrote the script for the original Iron Man in 2008, which teed off the box office reign of Marvel Studios. Judkins also has Marvel ties. He was a writer-producer on ABC's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, I know Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and some people wouldn't say that Wheel of Time was the most exciting thing, but I still think that this is a great pedigree of people. I'm especially excited for the idea of our Expanse showrunners coming in and getting behind a God of War series. Obviously, there's a lot of it's not going to be cheap to make a God of War series, but I'm interested. I really like the game. They've been doing look, Witcher. The casting in it was great. I mean, second season, I don't know about that, but I leave that up for cooler heads to chime in on. But I think this could be great. I think a God of War series is something that everybody who likes video games and likes television and movies, I think we've all thought how cool it would be to either get a God of War movie or a God of War series. So I'm there for it. I think that this is, in fact, a very interesting development, and obviously no one's commenting on it yet because there's probably nothing other than the fact that it's in development that they can say. I think once they figure out who's going to play Kratos, if they're going to go that way, we'll find out then, because people are going to want to know, well, who's playing him? Are they going to go that direction? And everyone's going to be like, come on, dude. So I'm sure that once they announce the casting, they'll probably announce the show itself. I think it'd be great. I'm in. I don't know who'd play him, but I kind of think, I mean, would The Rock play him? I don't know. Maybe you need a European to play him. I don't know. But I'm curious to see who they're going to get, how they're going to get them, and where it's all going. Very exciting. I think it's a very exciting announcement. Now, I have not. This show hasn't been on. I haven't done Robservations in like a week. I'm going to get back to the grind on it. But I'm on the John Campea show. We're doing at least 2 shows a day over there. You can always catch me at 10 o'clock in the morning on his show, And then usually we'll do a mailbag. Tomorrow we're doing Movie Club at 4 o'clock. You can come listen to us live talk about The Dark Knight. So I got letters. People. And I'm going to jump right in. Jamie Wright writes in this first letter. Hi, Rob. I hope you and the Post-Geek Singularity are doing well. Just recently, I decided to write a short film script, giving myself the target of creating a twist in the script that has the seeds planted throughout, whilst also not giving it away. That's a cool exercise. Everyone who has read the script, my friends and family, already knows the twist, which means I have no gauge on if the twist actually works or not. I've attached the screenplay. Feel free to read it or not, depending on how much time you have, and if you can give me some pointers on how to make my script better, that would be greatly appreciated. Also, could you please give me a list of 5 films that every cinema enthusiast needs to watch and 5 books everyone in the PGS needs to read? Many thanks. Well, Jamie, first of all, I want to continue to encourage you on your filmmaking journey. I think it's great what you're doing. Here's the thing. There's a couple of reasons I can't read scripts. One is I'm just too busy. I don't have time to do that. And 2, I legally cannot read your script. And the reason I can't do that is because I make films myself. And let's say, I'm not saying that this would ever happen, but people come up with the same kinds of ideas all the time. And let's say 5 years from now, I make a movie, and in this movie, there's something similar to your script. I'm not saying there would be, but let's say there is. You could come after me, and by having sent me the script, you could say that I stole your idea. So, and normally what I would do if I had a development staff that isn't just me, we would. So what happens is when you are sending somebody like myself a script, you are sending an unsolicited manuscript. Now, some places will accept unsolicited material, but you'll have to fill out a release form, and that release form makes sure from a legal perspective that I'm covered and that you're covered as well. I don't have that. I don't have a release form because my production company is not currently accepting screenplays from people I don't know or people I haven't worked with. But I don't mean to be a dick, but that's just the way it is. And also, I also just don't have time. But I would encourage you to keep writing. And, if people you trust are telling you that the script is good, I think that you don't need my approval. Obviously, you live, you learn, and I really appreciate that you're out there trying to make something. And, if it's a short film script, I would really encourage you, if you have enough encouraging reviews from people, not just friends and family, but maybe a few other people, you should make your film. I would very much encourage you to make your film. And if you make your film, I will put it up on this channel for you. I can do that. I can take a finish. You still own the film. I just put it up on the channel. And we had a gentleman named Noah who wrote in from Utah the other day, a couple times actually, and he's made some films. They're actually pretty good. I was very impressed. Noah's only 16 years old. I think he's well on his way to becoming a real filmmaker. And that's very exciting, and I always want to be encouraging of young filmmakers, so please do that. Please make the movie. And a list of 5 films that every cinema enthusiast needs to watch. Well, that's a tough call, buddy. 5 films, and 5 books. Off the top of my head, I can tell you films that I love. As a matter of fact, I could probably give you, just in the letter, films that start with the letter A that I think cinema enthusiasts should watch. All About Eve. All That Jazz. Alien. The long bootleg cut of Almost Famous. Let's see. What do I have? It's Armacord. Let's see. What else is A? You know what? That's off the top of my head. The A's. I could give you a lot more, but there's a few films that start with the letter A that popped into my head. And in terms of 5 books everyone in the PGS needs to read, is that nonfiction or fiction books? I'll tell you, if you want filmmaking books, read Walter Murch's book In the Blink of an Eye. That's a book on film editing that I think everybody actually should read. Read William Goldman's seminal tome, Adventures in the Screen Trade. Read, is it Peter Biskin who wrote Easy Riders, Raging Bulls? Read that. Read Carl Gottlieb's The Jaws Log. And if you can find it, Stephen Whitfield's book, The Making of Star Trek. Those are 5 books. Oh, also, read Rinsler's The Making of The Empire Strikes Back. Those are all great books on film and television. Check those out. Our friend Calvin Bowes, the father of Braxton Bowes, writes in and says, Dear Rob, Friday, March 4th. Oh, I missed this. Friday, March 4th is Braxton's 7th birthday. Would you mention it on the show? Calvin, I'm sorry I missed his actual birthday. I didn't get this until just now. I've enclosed 2 photos of him from the Star Trek Con for you to use on the show. The first is him with someone you may know. No, he does not really have a black eye. His friend Laren did the makeup. The second photo shows why it was a mistake to wear red. You know what? Let's see if they're here. Yes, as a matter of fact, they are here. Wow, I have these. Give me a minute, Calvin. And these aren't the best photos in the world, but this is pretty hilarious. So this is at the Creation Entertainment 55-year Mission Con. I believe this is from last summer. These are truly hilarious. So for Braxton's 7th birthday, I'm going to give you these photographs. And if you're listening to this as a podcast, because this obviously you cannot get this as a podcast, you'll have to trust me that these photos are totes adorbs. The first one is here. They're all dead, Jim. It's a group of red shirts, including Braxton, our 7-year-old Braxton. And then here's Braxton with somebody we all know and love, William Shatner. Braxton, that looks like you're wearing a Kelvin uniform. I'm just saying. What can I say? I won't give you a hard time, but I'm looking at you, Braxton. I'm looking at you. So there you go. And happy birthday, Braxton. 7 years old. It's going to be a good year. Keith O'Neill writes in and says, Hey, Rob, as someone who's been involved in the film industry in one way or another for 30 years, what is the movie that made you love movies? Was it a certain scene, a score, or was it a series of films? For me, it was the Coen brothers film, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? I went to the movies one day not knowing what I was about to see. I'd never seen a Coen brothers movie before, and all I knew about this was George Clooney starred in it, John Goodman had a small role, and it was set in the South in the 1930s. For some reason, it was when I saw this movie, what should have been obvious my whole life watching movies, it hit me. Everything in a movie is a choice, and when the right choices come together, it's amazing. Songs are chosen for a purpose, actors are chosen for roles for a reason, cinematography is a technique that can add to moments. Things that set up the first act have payoffs in the third act. I went into the theater as one person, and I left a Dapper Dan man. What was the movie that did that for you? Thanks, and stay freaking metal. Keith O'Neill. Keith, I've said it before on the show, but I'm going to say it again. The movie that really wanted me to make movies, I saw when I was 5 years old on Channel 11 in Seattle, Channel 11's sci-fi theater that was on, it aired at 2 o'clock Sunday afternoons. And that was the George Powell production, directed by Byron Haskin, of War of the Worlds. I was 5 years old, changed my life. Everything about War of the Worlds, even to this day, it has lost none of its power. From the manta ray alien war machines to the fact that the Martians kill a priest in the beginning of the movie, unrepentantly use their heat lasers or heat weapons and fry a priest. My 5-year-old brain, I couldn't believe it. I mean, I was being raised as a Jewish kid, but my best friend Jeff Swafford was Catholic, and I'd been to church. And the last thing in the world I would have thought would have happened in this movie was that the aliens would kill a priest. You don't do that. The Martians did. I loved everything about War of the Worlds. I loved the way it looked. I loved the way it sounded. I loved the femme fatale. I loved the Dr. Forrester. I loved everything about War of the Worlds, and I couldn't believe. I mean, it just cemented into me what I wanted to do my whole life. And I was 5 years old. At this time, I was also watching Star Trek, and I don't know if I'd seen The Twilight Zone yet, but soon after I discovered The Twilight Zone and, of course, The Outer Limits, and it was a heady kind of a mix of the... I love the George Pal movies, Destination Moon, When Worlds Collide, Conquest of Space, but War of the Worlds was the first. Conquest of Space and War of the Worlds were really the first two, I guess, because I figured that, yeah, they both had to do with Mars. And, you know, when you're a kid, when you're kids, you love dinosaurs, you love sharks, and you love Mars. I don't know why. I was that kid. So War of the Worlds, man, that's the thing that did it for me. And I was smitten with movies ever since. And yeah, watch it. It's been released on 2 beautiful Blu-rays of it. Criterion put one out, and so did not Indicator, Imprint from Australia did one too. This next letter is from Stubble McShave, and I've changed a little bit on it because things have changed since he wrote it. But this is from our friend Stubble McShave. Greetings to the Pontiff of Pontification. It may have gone unnoticed for many of your viewers, but something has happened in the book publishing industry yesterday, over the last couple days. Since many of your viewers are more movie watchers than book readers, this may have passed most by. I'm a fan of Brandon Sanderson's writing. I discovered him through his co-authorship of the Reel of Time series, where he finished the last 3 books from extensive notes from Robert Jordan. I later discovered his Mistborn books and really liked his writing style. You actually sent me one of his books. His own big project is the Stormlight Archive series, which, like the Mistborn series and also other books he's written, is part of the Cosmere. The Cosmere is basically, without going into any details, the interconnected world of his different book series with world-hopping characters in the background and a larger plot in the background that's unfolding as the different book series progress. You don't have to know about the Cosmere to enjoy the books, but it gives an extra dimension to his stories. As of now, besides the 3,000-page books in the Wheel of Time book series he's written, 6 Mistborn novels, epic fantasy, which clocks in between 400 to 800 pages, 4 Stormlight Archive novels, epic fantasy with a page count between 1,000 and 1,250 pages, 5 middle grade books in the Alcatraz series, 4 Reckoners books, YA superhero novels, similar premise as The Boys but different in style, 4 Chitonic books, YA science fiction novels, 3 standalone novels, 16 novellas, both novella series and tie-in novellas, 4 graphic novels, and 2 co-authored novels. Wow. And he's done it in less than 17 years. He's a very productive writer, and the books are very highly regarded, both by readers, but especially by fellow authors, where he's almost become a meme. There are other authors who take 3 or more years between each book, and we shouldn't mention George R.R. Martin and Patrick Rothfuss, who take a lot of criticism for the time they take between each book. Anyway, I still haven't really gotten to the point of this letter, just the setup. The point is that Brandon has been working away on his scheduled books that are going to be released in the coming years, and yesterday he had an announcement that he had to come clean about something, and that some would find it troubling. He revealed that during the pandemic, when there was basically no traveling or going to conventions, he had written 5 extra standalone novels during 2020 and 21 with the extra time on his hands. This was in addition to his already scheduled works. One of the books was a children's book, but the other 4 were full-length novels. He decided to publish these books in a different way. For the 10th anniversary of some of his books, he made leather-bound high-end editions and published them via campaigns on Kickstarter. The Kickstarter for the first book in the Stormlight Archives reached almost $7 million and was a huge success. The 4 full-length novels mentioned earlier are published via a Kickstarter campaign as well. There will be a release of each book every 3 months during 2023, with the optional swag from the books in between releases. Within minutes, the goal of $1 million was reached, and within a 6-hour period, it passed $10 million. As I write this, it now stands at over $18 million, and it's been just over a day since the Kickstarter was launched. Stubble sent in an update yesterday that the Kickstarter campaign has now surpassed the all-time largest campaign and generated nearly $24 million as of Saturday afternoon, and there's still 24 days remaining. So this is just this past Saturday. By the way, I've looked at the Kickstarter. It's gone. Well, let's see. Let's take a look, and let's see. The Kickstarter campaign now, as of this moment, it is at 25,710,000. Wow, it just, well, as I watch this, 710,761. That is crazy. He raised his first $1 million in less than 30 minutes and now has over 100,000 backers. An article in Engadget provides more details on the successful campaign. Now, what has this to do with the publishing industry? Well, how it works in publishing is that the popular established authors usually make up for the money that publishing companies spend on establishing new authors, just like, I guess, a band and the music industry. A new author usually doesn't sell very well until they've established a reputation and proven themselves with several high-quality books. There are, of course, exceptions to this, such as J.K. Rowling, who sold a bunch of books right away. The money that's spent on establishing and cultivating new talent by the publishing companies are offset by the high revenue that's generated by high sales from established popular authors. By showing the kind of money that an established popular author can make by self-publishing via Kickstarter may cause an avalanche of highly productive authors to take that route as well. Someone like Stephen King could probably do something similar if he had the same infrastructure that Brandon has set up for himself. Brandon has his own company, Dragonsteel Entertainment LLC, that he so far has used to publish his merchandise, some short stories, and the leather-bound editions mentioned earlier. He also has a YouTube channel that features weekly updates, fan interactions, and a podcast with his author friend Dan Wells. What's to say that he doesn't publish some of Dan's books via his company? If Stephen King or someone like him would start to sell books directly to fans in a similar way, it could open the floodgates to other popular authors circumventing the publishing route that they've taken so far in their career and self-published. By showing what kind of money an established author can make by self-publishing if they've got the infrastructure in place, it could really change the landscape. If there were more established authors doing this, it could have an effect on new authors where they don't get as much support from the publishing company in the beginning and may push more of them into self-publishing. This is kind of a new situation. For the first time, we see a best-selling author who more or less has built up a publishing company by himself and does his own mass-market publishing with the help of Kickstarter and YouTube, where he does his own promotion. I should mention that he still publishes most of his work with established publishing companies, mostly Tor books. What do you think, Rob? Is this a one-time thing, or do you think other established authors will take the same route? Could you see Stephen King or someone like him doing something similar? And if they do, will it have an effect on cultivating of new talent by the publishing companies? Thanks, Stubble McShave. Well, Stubble, I think this is a fantastic topic and question. So I've been following this. Obviously, I was involved in a fan film project, the Axonar project, that did generate, at the time, over almost $2 million via crowdfunding to make the Axonar feature film that I was eventually slated to direct, but it never got made for various reasons. But which is always, when you're dealing with Kickstarter or crowdfunding, it's always a risk when you're going to back a project. But I have to say that I love what Mr. Sanderson has done here. I've already seen other people bitch and moan and complain that Mr. Sanderson has somehow doesn't deserve this, or there's been some jealousy lobbed his way for other reasons. I feel, I go back to the lesson I learned when Noble Williams' character in Pastime, the minor league baseball film that was directed by Robin Armstrong, who I used to work for. In that movie, Noble Williams, who's a coach for a minor league baseball team, tells an over-the-hill pitcher, look, it doesn't matter how good somebody else is. It doesn't make you any better or any worse. Mr. Sanderson deserves all the kudos and accolades he can get. And if he can go directly to his buyers, directly to his readers, and generate $25 million in sales, and he'll actually get the books made and fulfill those orders. More power to him. I think that all artists, if they could sell, or all entertainers could sell direct to their fans, it could be a really interesting landscape. I'm actually pursuing something a little similar in a different way with Mike Bodden, who is my business partner on this channel. And we're going to be doing something that's not book related, but if you look at people like what Ethan Van Sciver did with Cyberfrog, I mean, he made over $1 million there to publish his comic and went directly to his readership. And then you're no longer beholden to companies or policies, or no one can tell you what you can and can't say. And I think it's absolutely a great thing to do. And obviously, if you've got the fan base that's going to support you, I mean, how wonderful is that? And yeah, it's a lot of money. He made $25 million in a matter of days. I mean, good on him. I think it's amazing. And I think, look, obviously he's a very established author that's taken a long time for him to get the kind of fan base that he has. So I think he deserves all the success in the world. I mean, the only reason that he was able to generate that money is people liked his work. That's it. They liked his work. They knew who he was. He's cultivated his fans with a community, you know, and I think that's the way to go. That's the wave of the future. Making movies is a hard business, but when you're trying to get movies made, all you do is knock on doors and say, I would like to make this movie, and people tell you no. Let's just say if I was ever in a position where I could get movies made, and I could get them made from whether it was crowdfunding or various interesting ways to finance films that weren't reliant upon people saying yes or no to me, I would very much do that. And there are interesting ways that have, and things that have arisen that might make something like that possible if it's done correctly. I've seen how it's done incorrectly, but if it's done correctly, it could be fantastic. I think it's great. He deserves all the success. And again, all the authors that are bitching and moaning and complaining, you know, if you'd thought of it, you would have done it too. So I think it's amazing. I think it's amazing that he was able to do that. So 100%, I am very excited for him, for everybody, and mostly for his fans. You know, we're going to get 4 books over the year of 2023. Who doesn't want that? So everybody wins. And, you know, how cool is that? I think it's great. Great letter, Stubble. Thanks for writing in. I really appreciate that. Diego Higueros? Diego Higueros? I hope I got that right. Hi, Rob. I'm a big fan of your work. I suffer from obsessive-compulsive disorder, but your videos and commentaries about movies have helped me a lot. Thank you for that. Well, I appreciate you saying so. After my brief introduction, I send you this letter to ask about your recommendations about the following. I love Star Wars, particularly the original 6 George Lucas films. Like many others, I wasn't a fan of the sequel trilogy. I thought it was a mess of a trilogy in terms of plot, characters, and lore. Indeed. Last year, George Lucas himself revealed his true original sequel trilogy ideas, Darth Maul being the main villain, Leia the main character of the trilogy, and more. And since then, I started to imagine what a sequel trilogy would be like. When I realized this, I started to create my own sequel trilogy story with characters, themes, villains, world building, etc. I don't know what to do with those ideas. I've tried to write the scripts, but then I realized that they're just fan fiction, and what am I going to write? It'll be a waste of time. I've tried to just let go of those ideas, but I can't. What do you think I should do? Should I continue writing the scripts, or maybe should I share them on the internet? I don't want to be that toxic guy who believes his ideas are better than a product. Anyway, I hope you can read this letter and keep doing your good job. Diego. Well, I'll tell you something, Diego. First of all, unfortunately, you don't own Star Wars. So anything that you are going to create that is Star Wars themed, you really can't do anything with it. It used to be that Lucasfilm allowed fan films to be made. I don't know what that policy is now that Disney, I mean, there's still a lot of fan films, Star Wars fan films that get made on the internet, but, and that's always a great way to go. That's definitely something you could do. Or you could post your ideas for all to see and get some feedback and And, I have to say, even when I was a little kid, I would write Star Trek stories, and I think it's a great way to get into writing. There's no reason. I mean, there's so many book authors that I really admire who got their start writing Star Trek novels. So fan fiction is something that's been a part of the fan community, I think, pretty much forever, since anyone decided they were a fan of. I'm sure that, when someone read Mary Shelley's postmodern Prometheus, the Frankenstein, that someone said, I'm gonna write a sequel. I don't know if anybody did, but maybe someone did. So I think it's great that you're doing that. You just have to know that because you don't own Star Wars, there's nothing you can do with those ideas. However, you could take those ideas, and as I've often been told myself, or I will tell people, you could take your ideas and write your own, substitute all the Star Wars of it all, and create your own characters. Take your own world, build your own world that's original to you. And if you want to write it as a script, or you want to write it as a book, or you want to write it as a graphic novel, no one can stop you. I think it's great. Now, as people know, we've been revamping our website, the Post-Geek Singularity website. We've been revamping it. And at the end of this week, so it's postgeeksingularity.com. That's where you can write me letters for this show. We are going to now have a portal for fans to upload fan fiction, fan art, cosplay, costume creations, animation, fan films if you've got them, music, reviews, models, your action figure collection, whatever you want to upload. It is going to be a place for fan images and fan artwork, and hopefully anything that you retain all ownership. We don't claim any ownership of the material. It's just a hub that we want people to go to share what they do. And it's going to be on the website and our Instagram account. The portal's in the process of being built, and it should be done by the end of the week. But it's a place where you could share your Star Wars ideas if you wanted to. So, which I think is pretty cool, because that's, of course, what we all like doing here, isn't it? We all like sharing all of our stuff, which is always a fun thing to do. So I think it's pretty cool. And I think it's great, by the way, that you have come up with your own ideas, because there's one thing that we as imagination connoisseurs do. We can't help ourselves. For most of us, I think people are really creative. And a lot of the time, these fan flights of fancy are what lead to people doing. After all, the 50 Shades of Grey series was spawned by writing Twilight fan fiction. And look at how that worked out. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to happen for you, but you never know. It could be the beginning of something big for you. And what's not to love? And I'm a big believer in that, because, as John Campea says, and I happen to love this phrase or this idea, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. I always like that idea, and I totally agree with that assessment. So I think you should definitely keep up with that work of yours, and if you want to share it on our channel, please do so, or find I'm sure there's probably vast repositories of Star Wars fan fiction, where a place where you could actually go and probably get some great feedback. I, of course, don't necessarily know where that is right away, but I think it's somewhere. But yeah, I would say definitely check it out. Now, I'm going to jump in and see what you were saying. I have to find Anish. I promised Anish. He had sent in a super chat that for whatever reason I missed it. It didn't get read on the channel, and I hate that when people support the channel and I forget to read it, or I skip over it or miss it. I have to find it. I'm looking at it now. It was from a couple of days ago. So I'm looking for Anish. I found Anish. Now, he's sent in 2, but I don't know. I don't think that's the one that So bear with me as I'm scanning back through the days to find Anish's. This is hard because I'm going through everything that everybody's sent in to me, and I don't see it. I'm going to find it. Anish. Well, actually, I'm going to zip over, and you can see for yourselves how much, how many these things from days gone by. That's Ash. That is not Anish. So I hope you all bear with me here as I'm zipping through here. And then, by the way, there are some things here from that I haven't gone through yet that we're going to go. The Midnight Musings. You know what? I can't find Anish's thing. I'm looking for it, but I can't find it. Oh, Anish sent something else. Well, there you go. Well, I'll start first with I'll start with you here tonight. A Blow CD sends in a super chat and says, "Cure, Rob. First time tipping." Well, that's very nice of you. With the announcement of the GOW show, the God of War show, do you think we'll get a Red Dead Redemption series or movie? Red Dead Redemption 2 is one of my favorite video games, stories of all time. I was thinking they could make Red Dead Redemption 1 as a movie and Red Dead Redemption 2 as a series. Good idea. Thanks for all you do. Sending love from Windy Welly. Windy Welly. There's nothing I like better than landing planes or being in a plane that's landing at the Wellington airport when the wind is blowing. Anybody who's ever flown into Wellington knows what I'm talking about. Look, I think it's a great idea. I think a Red Dead Redemption series with Yellowstone doing well, and Elizabeth and I watched 1883, which was fantastic. I loved it. I really loved 1883. I think Westerns could be coming back, and what better thing to do than Red Dead Redemption? I mean, if you're going to do a multi-part series, you could use Red Dead Redemption 1 and 2 as the basis of that series. I guess you could do a Red Dead Redemption movie, but you could also do it as a show. And I think it'd be great. Red Dead Redemption 2 is great. And so yeah, I'm a fan. I think you should look out for that, because I think it's a great idea. Love it. Nick Markins sends in a super chat and says, "Rob, what do you think about the announcement of a new Alien movie? Apparently it's not following Prometheus and Covenant, but Ridley Scott is producing. Fade Alvarez, I believe, is doing it. He of Evil Dead remake fame and Don't Breathe fame. You know, as long as it's good, I think both the Alien and Predator franchises could use an injection of goodness into them. You know, the first Alien is a near perfect movie to me. Aliens is a lot of fun. It's one of the greatest sequels ever made. And I'm a huge fan, actually, of the assembly cut of Alien 3. It's not, of course, it's a bit of a downer, but I really do enjoy it. And then the rest of the Alien series, I had such high hopes for Prometheus. But I mean, Fade Alvarez is a very talented filmmaker. But is that how you pronounce his name? But I if it's good, like, I hope it's good. Hope springs eternal. It just, I hope it's not like Alien Covenant. That's all I can say. Hope not. Anish says, "Hi, Rob. I'm going to find your super chat, Anish, that I missed." Anish says, "Hi, Rob. Your show goes late for some of us outside California. I'd like to get a question in and listen to the show the next day. I'd love to get your thoughts on the Robin characters and possible Reeves adaptation." Gosh, I mean, I would imagine you're talking about there's Damian Wayne, there's Dick Grayson, there's Tim, Tim Drake, and of all the Robins, I mean, obviously, I'm very partial to Dick Grayson, and I especially loved it when Dick Grayson became Nightwing in the pages of the New Teen Titans, the Wolfman Perez run, and I just love Dick Grayson. To me, is the original Robin, but I love that portrayal of him in Wolfman and Perez's run on Titans. And Jason Todd, I always thought Jason Todd was kind of a dick. And when the Death in the Family storyline came down, I did make a phone call and I said, kill him. I guess you can't kill him. He's got to come back in a different form. And we're seeing these characters around now. But Dick Grayson and Tim Drake, I really like. So if either way, if they went with that, I would like that. That's probably what I would go with. Word balloon. John Suntress. Okay, if you guys aren't listening or you haven't sampled John Suntress's Word Balloon podcast, why haven't you? It's probably the best podcast ever done with comic creators and pop culture. I mean, John knows everybody. And if you do yourself a favor, if you're at all interested, and he does interviews with other people too, but the comic creator interviews, he knows everyone, and everyone who goes on his podcast is very loose. So check it out. John says, have you done a Picard review yet? No. I have not done a review of Picard. And everyone's like, oh boy, here it comes. Okay. Okay. Carrie Kelly was kind of fun as Robin, yes, in The Dark Knight Returns. I like Carrie Kelly. I have a oh, she fell down. I have a Carrie Kelly action figure. Okay, Star Trek Picard. Here it is. It was certainly better than all of the last season of Picard. But, and I really did appreciate a lot of the production design. I loved seeing, we saw a fleet of spaceships, of starships. We had Sovereign class, we had Akira class, we had Excelsior class. It was nice. The new production designer, the fact that Doug Drexler's working, I think he's on season 3, but they're trying a lot harder to fit it into the universe. Here is my, and this is after only one episode, so my I've got criticism. My biggest problem with the Picard series is it's not Jean-Luc Picard, it's Patrick Stewart. And I haven't felt, I thought the first season was garbage writing and garbage science fiction, and also I thought what they did to the character of Picard, both as slinking away from Starfleet and writing books, and then killing him at the end and making him a robot, an android, putting him into an android body, was the dumbest thing ever. The entire way they dealt with synths and all that was ridiculous. It was just really, really terrible. That said, I thought it was a cheap and stupid way to open season 2 with that flashback 48 hours later, or 48 hours previously, or 48 hours before. You know, they have these action scenes and something cataclysmic happens, they blow up the ship. I mean, that's like the most, I hate that. It's the worst television cliche. Please don't do that anymore, but they did. So in this episode, we're supposed to believe that there's some spatial anomaly that was either caused by the Borg or caused by Q or whatever, and the Borg are asking to join the Federation. I mean, you know what? I won't do a recap. I won't spoil it all. I just thought it was the most overstuffed hour of Star Trek television. It's like, pick a lane, bro. You've got Q. You've got Guinan. You've got the Borg. You've got the Borg Queen. You've got fleets of spaceships. You're displaced. You find out again in another horrible, the writers of modern Star Trek. Here's how I feel about if you're lucky enough to work on a legacy character, I don't think it is your place. I don't think any writers should be allowed to go back into the history of characters they didn't create and alter that character's backstory fundamentally. And in it, I mean, Major Grin did a YouTube video about this. They made Picard's father an abuser, beat up his mother, really unpleasant. And the idea that Picard was the child of abuse in the 24th century, I thought was absurd, and it was borderline offensive. But the people that are writing modern Star Trek, they don't know how to do anything else but give every character a tragic backstory, which I think that might work for today, but it doesn't make any sense in the 23rd century. And that's not to say there isn't abuse going on in the future. But, you know, part of Star Trek's, the idea of Star Trek is that our characters are more enlightened than that, and that they're living in a post-scarcity, vaguely utopian civilization. So the idea, when you watch a father beat up a mother. Plus, Picard had sort of a similar rift with his father that was dealt with in Next Generation over multiple episodes. His father wanted him to stay home in the vineyard, and didn't want him to go off into the stars. We saw that in Tapestry, and we saw that in a few other episodes. And his father certainly didn't beat his mother, and I hated that. And once again, as we all know, Uhura has a tragic backstory in Strange New Worlds. Maybe you didn't know that, but that's been talked about, how her family, of course, died. Everyone's tragic backstory. It's so funny. In Next Generation, the trope was we met everybody's relatives, but the new Star Trek trope is every character has a tragic backstory, which I'm frankly very sick of. I hated that they did that. And I hated that the episode is like all of these things. The speech that Picard gave smacked of Akiva Goldsman writing at in the morning while he was drinking his coffee. I mean, let's see what's out there. Really? I haven't heard a great... Give me a real Picard speech. Like, give me a Picard in the episode The Drumhead speech. The writing on these shows is just... It continues to be awful. It really does. A lot of the dialogue. Now, then again, you get Picard meets Guinan, and they talk to each other like... I don't believe their relationship. The relationship is being written in a very rudimentary way. I didn't buy it. It seemed like you were just meeting Guinan for the first time, and I guess they kind of thought that way because, well, we have to assume that our new audience hasn't seen all 178 episodes of The Next Generation or 4 feature films. Why they do that, I don't know, but it's annoying. It's bad writing, and I hate it. So anyway, you got Guinan, Q, all this Star Trek greatest hits stuff. And now we're going to see different timelines and fascist futures and you name it. Whether it's a Star Trek, and I understand, and I keep getting told that, well, Rob, there's a whole new generation of people that are not as familiar with these stories. And I'm like, okay, but that doesn't mean an audience deserves your best stories. And while it's too early to say, I will say it's fun to get your Star Trek greatest hits. Ooh, the Borg Queen. Ooh, she's taking over the fleet. Ooh, they're going back in time. Ooh, the timeline is broken. Ooh, there's some hexagonal shield over the whole world. Whatever. The thing I really loved was I loved the conversation Picard had with Laris at the beginning, the Romulan. Why they had to kill her significant other or her friend, whatever. I forget his name, but he's dead. I really liked the conversation that they were having. The idea that Picard has never let his guard down, has never let someone into his heart, even though we've seen, whether it was Vosh, whether it was Anj or as an Anish in Insurrection, Beverly Crusher herself, there has been women in Picard's life, but he's never really allowed somebody to go deep into that heart of his. I like that idea. And if the show is ultimately indeed in a roundabout way that Picard discovers real love in his life, I'm like, okay, that's a really interesting Star Trek story. The same way that in the Batman, Robert Pattinson's Batman wonders after year 2, when crime is up and everything he's tried to do is failing, that by the end of the movie, he realizes he has a change of heart and realizes what he's been looking for. Getting vengeance is not what the city needed. It's not what the people of Gotham needed. And it's not what he needed. So at the end of the movie, there's a fundamental change in Batman's character, which I love. I want to see that with Picard. It's called Picard, Star Trek Picard, but it really should be the story of him. And we'll see where that goes. But it looks to me like they've just taken a bunch of Star Trek tropes. I mean, that are easy. It would really have been interesting. I would love to have seen a movie or a TV show about Picard that doesn't fall back on the easiest of Star Trek tropes, these fan favorite. And yeah, I know people are going to, well, Rob, in the second season episode of Next Generation, it was Q that blasted the Enterprise, and that's when they first met the Borg, and Q who? Directed by Rob Bowman. Yes, I know. But do we have to see that yet again? I mean, again. And hopefully it'll be good, and I'm sure everyone loves it because, boy, oh boy, the Star Trek audience is not as discerning as I would like to I'd like to believe that they are. But, hey, it's fun, right? We're getting those Star Trek greatest hits. But I'll do a real review later. But I will say this. It wasn't the god-awful disaster that Star Trek Picard Season 1 was. So, Sheriff Carl, all the way from the P&W, Seattle, says, the Batman fucking ruled. It has the Crow vibes as well as all the other rad shit it takes bits from. Love the Penguin we got. Yeah, De Niro for sure, but I kept seeing Eli Wallach's Tuco as well. Ooh, good call. That's from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I'm with you right there. I'm in love with this new iteration of the Batman mythos. Yeah, I loved it too. I thought it was great, and it was something new and something that was done in a different way, and I liked it a lot. I know that there's a lot of people love it. I've seen some people I really, really respect not like it. I can understand that as well. But I loved it. And Sheriff Carl, you and I park our shuttlecrafts in the same shuttle bay. Tom Jr. Jackson says, hey, Rob, I have a question. Did you ever meet Alan Ladd Jr.? I never did. Also, is there going to be a special episode 69 of Let's Get Physical Media? Well, knowing that Dieter Bastian and I are fans of the of sex and violence, I think we're going to have to do a special. Somebody brought up that we should do a special episode about the movies of Jess Franco, which isn't a bad idea, actually. But yes, I am sure we will do something special for episode 69. The lovely Connie Sang says, I'm thinking I may try the theatrical release of Aliens. By the way, I snored all through Aliens, so I apologize for that. I was tired. It's been tiresome around these parts, but yes, I was drinking and I fell asleep during Aliens. I hope you liked it. I don't know, man. The theatrical version of Aliens, the only real difference, there's a few differences. They don't come down. You don't learn that her daughter died while she was in hypersleep. The scene on Hadley's Hope, where you see the colony on LV-426 before they're destroyed, is not in it. And the sentry guns are not in it. But those are pretty much the only things. There's a few things sprinkled throughout, but those are the only things. And I don't know. I mean, I think the long version of Aliens is better. I understand where Dieter was coming from on that, but if you'd like, you're always welcome. I promise I won't snore. Nick Markins sends in a super chat and says, Rob, can you talk about your views on Texas Chainsaw as a franchise? I find it interesting you worked on one of the films, but it seems like you don't like the recent films. Well, Nick, you're in luck because 2 weeks ago we did an episode of Midnight Metal, episode 76, where Dave Parker and I talked for a long time. Specifically, the entire show is about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. But I'll tell you, I think the problem with Texas Chainsaw is they keep trying to make it into a franchise, and it's really not. The first Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, I think, is a masterpiece. The sense of dread, it's not even that gory, but the documentary feel to it, it's a shattering horror film, and it's beyond compare, and there's nothing that's ever come close in the franchise. And the thing is, you know, when you watch a Jason movie or a Freddy movie or Michael Myers or something, even though they're about killers that are whacking teenagers who just had sex or whatever, they're fun. They're fun. I mean, you like watching Freddy Krueger slaughter teenagers because he does it in an interesting fashion. And it's pulp horror. The thing about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is it's not. The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is truly horrifying. You would never want to be those kids, and your sympathies are always with the human beings. Once they've turned it into a franchise, your Leatherface by definition can never, I mean, I guess some people can, even Tobe Hooper, when he made Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, he turned it into a parody because he himself, it's a horror comedy, because where else can you go? I mean, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is so great because it's so horrific, because it feels so real. I mean, every time I've watched that movie, I have to take a shower afterwards. It's that grungy. And when I worked on the first movie I worked on that I got a screen credit on was Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. and that was the one that starred Ken Foree from Dawn of the Dead, Kate Hodge, and it also starred Viggo Mortensen, who was in it, and other people as well. But and again, they had a horrible time with the ratings board when Jeff Burr was making that movie. They went really extreme with the violence, and New Line saw the Texas Chainsaw franchise as replacing Nightmare on Elm Street, which at that point right before we started shooting Leatherface, they had just finished Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child, which I was actually on the set for a while because part of the art department moved over to Texas Chainsaw. And they tried to make it more of a horror film, and I guess you could, but I really do think that the Texas Chainsaw brand is something that doesn't work anymore, because Leatherface they're not fun, and when you do make them fun, it becomes more like a parody than anything else. So what they're trying to do is make a franchise happen, but they don't want the franchise to be what it is. They don't want it to be Texas Chainsaw. They want it to be something else. So it doesn't ever really particularly work. I mean, this new movie was I didn't take it seriously at all. I just couldn't take it. There was a lot of fun violence in it, and it was great to see some gore and to see idiots get chainsawed up, but it wasn't, to me, I'm like, I just don't care. There's nothing, horror movies like that should be philosophically interesting, like the Hellraiser films. The Hellraiser movies were always philosophical. From the very first one, it was interesting from a philosophical standpoint, because it was all about the Cenobites didn't just show up to terrorize people. You had to call them. You were looking for them to tear your soul apart. Whereas in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, this idea that the trumped up reason why they go back to the town and all of that, it's not what Texas Chainsaw Massacre is at its very essence. And I just think they keep thinking that Leatherface is this heroic horror in the pantheon of horror heroes. Leatherface is right up there, but he's not. They keep trying to make him that way, and I don't think it works. I don't think it works. Man says, "I am your father, Rob." Are you? Yeah, you can be. My father, Richard, passed away about 14 years ago. I miss him every day. And if you want to be my father, by all means. Darth Plato says, "You're absolutely right, Rob. I was post-original Trek. Started watching around 79 abouts, and I picked it up just fine. No need to fix something that isn't broken. Now it's broken." Well, I think what's really broken about it is, at the end of the day, you can have the Borg, you can have Q, you can have Guinan, you can have alternate timelines, but what's your story really about? And, Q says, well, the trial never ends. I mean, okay, the trial never ends, but it looks to me like the situation, Q makes some mention of the fact that Picard is the board that all of this is played on. Well, okay, we'll find out. I don't know where they're going with it, but at the end of the day, it seems like Picard Season 2, they've contrived this big story using Star Trek's greatest hits, and they're going to shove Jean-Luc Picard into it. And they've got all these other characters. Whereas, if you want to think about, I would rather them come up with a character study that has nothing to do with Star Trek, figure out a great journey for Picard to go on, then add in all the Star Trek stuff later. My problem with modern Star Trek is they're not telling good stories. Their stories are all over the place. And you know what? Michael Piller, when he came on to The Next Generation in the 3rd season, solved the great problem of Star Trek storytelling. Every story has to be about our characters. And starting in Season 3, rather than having something outside there, our characters were the center of the stories that were being told. And, with whatever's going on with Star Trek Picard, they're telling stories that are, well, we'll see. Again, but they've just added all these things at once, and they just cheapen all of it. We'll see where it all goes, but, I mean, It's the whole thing is bizarre. I'm like, really? That's what we're going to get? All these elements that we've seen a million times before? I guess that's what we're getting. So, but I want it to be good. I don't want it to be bad. But who knows? I don't know. I don't know why. Am I asking for too much? Do I want too much? I don't know. It just bums me out. But yeah. So I guess, this show is going to jump on and do a quick show. I guess this show will bring this show to an end. This was a quick, fun show. I liked everyone's letters. I liked everyone's comments. You got me talking. Connie now wants to see the theatrical version of Aliens, which we could, but it's not significantly different. But anyway, and you can watch us all walk the dogs. And on that note, I want to say to everybody, first of all, thanks to my moderators. Tom Jr. Jackson was here, and I'm sure I saw Brian Hepburn. Yes, Brian Hepburn. I did see Brian Hepburn. So thank you, Darren Seeley, for moderating tonight's show. I very much appreciate it. I appreciate everybody who supports this channel via Super Chats and tips and memberships. We are going to have a membership call on next Saturday, a little earlier, because Roberto Suarez has a heart out. I think we're going to start at 10 a.m. So if you're a member of the channel, which you can be for $1 a month, we do have every other week. We have membership calls, where we just chat, for hours on end. You ask me questions, and people can talk, other Post-Geek Singularity members. We're going to do all of that. So that's fun. And look for that Saturday at 10 a.m. So we're going to do that. And remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. And all you have to do is listen. And with that, I would say to everyone, have a better night.